Imagine a year where you come for the giant eight-legged creatures, but stay for the boring human characters who keep falling in love. God damn it.
What year is that, Sandro?
It's 1955. Hello and welcome to Oldie But a Goodie. You've joined us on a creature double feature this week. My name's Sandro Felcher. I'm stuck in a submarine after everything that happened last week. I'm still stuck down here. It's been a whole year of just being stuck down here by myself. It's so annoying. Anyway, I'm gonna go over to this closet. I'm gonna open it up. I think there's a coffee machine in here. Let's see if there's a coffee in here. I need to get some coffee.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Oh my god, there's a French man in my closet.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Bernard Velmans. Comment t'appelles-tu?
Bernard Vermans?
Oui.
What are you doing in my closet, you French man?
You speak English. English not my best language, but I shall try.
Mm-hmm. You're doing pretty well right now.
I was merely studying the cryptozoology throughout the oceans in this fine vessel of yours.
Oh, is this your vessel?
Yes, this is mine. Oh. What are you doing on my submarine?
Well, Harry Grindle Matthews put me on this submarine, and then I kicked him out, and now I run the submarine, but I'm stuck at the bottom of the ocean, so...
Well, it is convenient plot-wise, because I actually know how to steer this thing and get it back to the surface.
You do? Well, that's wonderful. That means that I can finally escape. But I'm going to do a podcast first, so maybe can you, clear your mind? Think about your favorite sort of creature.
Well, that's interesting you speak of creature, because I was the author of the On Track for the Unknown Animals.
Ooh.
Which was the first ever book for cryptozoology, which is zoology about cryptids and other things like the Loch Ness Monster, Yetis, all that sort of thing.
Right, okay. See, nowadays if you say cryptozoology, I immediately think of bloody NFTs. Is that still relevant?
Yeah, cryptozoology, yeah. No, that makes sense. That checks out.
Yeah.
Do you have a monkey?
I do have a monkey, yes. Yes, why?
I just thought it was odd that there was a monkey on the...
Oh my god, he's transformed. The monkey threw a plate. Zach, hello, we're still in the submarine.
Oh, hello. What? Oh, I feel weird today. Oh, I'm in a Frenchman. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're in a Frenchman. It's just always the case. That's it's so uncanny. Zach, we're doing a bonus battle this episode. I feel like we need a guest.
Oh, a guest? Well, that's going to be tricky. We don't have any way to really get a guest down here. There's no other people here.
There is that monkey. We could zap a guest into the monkey.
Yeah, I mean, I was the monkey last week. It's about time a guest was a monkey.
All right, here's my ray gun. I'm shooting the monkey. Oh my god, from Crooked Table Productions, it's the one and only Robert Yaniz Jr. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey guys, what's up?
How does it feel to be a monkey?
It feels weird. It feels like I'm taking a step backwards.
Taking a step backwards?
On the evolutionary chain. I'm a step down. I feel inferior, more so than usual, I have to say.
Yes, that oppressive feeling.
That's one thing about Oldie But a Goodie. We know how to make our guests feel inferior.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Speaking of inferior, you're joining us for a bonus battle, which means one movie. We're talking about two movies this year. Both came out in 1955, both science fiction monster horror films. One of them's going to be inferior because it's a bonus battle, which is a sort of episode where we pit these two movies against each other, see which one is the best, which one is the worst, purely through facts. No opinions are allowed, Robert. No opinions at the table. This is just a fact-based episode.
Absolutely. Zero opinions. We want zero opinions here.
That's the only way I roll. All facts all the time.
But before we jump in, you are a podcaster. You've got Crooked Table Productions, a bunch of podcasts under that, including Franchise Detours, which Zach and I have both been on a few times. I think last time we did, was it Beverly Hills Cop 3?
I think so. Yes, I appreciate your guys' sacrifice
What a
with
movie.
that one. That was a rough watch.
But right now you are doing all the X-Men movies. So if people are fans of those X-Men, or at least some of the film, I feel like at least 40% of them are good. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I like all of them except Apocalypse. Fuck Apocalypse.
you like you like Dark Phoenix?
Yeah, absolutely. Never seen it actually.
You've skipped all the bad ones, I think, minus Apocalypse. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No giant 8-legged creatures in those movies, though.
No.
Exactly. That's why I don't like them.
Isn't there there's a giant animal in New Mutants, isn't there?
There's a giant psychic demon bear.
That's right.
Yeah.
Psychic demon bear.
It's like a smoke monster, straight out of Lost kind of vibe.
Well, to check all that out, there's a link in the episode description. Let's get into this double feature. Robert, had you heard of either of these movies before? It Came From Beneath the Sea or Tarantula?
I mean, the sci-fi movies of this era, which were all giant creatures, sort of, radioactive, atomic, like nuclear fear sort of thing. All of them are It Came From Something or The Creature From Something, lots of exclamation points in the titles. So had I heard of these specific ones? Probably not. But they sort of feel like they're, in the ether. I did realize, though, in doing preparation for this episode, that Tarantula gets a name check in Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh.
I was like, because then there's a line in there. I knew Leo G. Carroll was over a barrel when Tarantula took to the hills. And I was like, okay, all right. A point in Tarantula's corner, I guess, to start things off. So long story short, no, not specifically, no.
Right, okay. And Zach, you're a big fan of giant creature movies as well. Like you love a Godzilla, you love a King Kong, you love a The Meg.
Oh, I love the Meg. God. There's nothing more that I love than Jason Statham jump back flipping, throwing spears into eyeballs of Megs,
So I feel like you're the most qualified here, Zach, to kick off our spoiler-free first impressions of these movies. What did you think of Tarantula and Giant Octopus, the movie?
Well, bringing it to the Godzillas and King Kong movies, they suffer from one thing, which usually ruins them. And I think these movies also suffer from the human plot. The human plot is always the contentious point.
What do you mean? I'm a dad, I gotta get back to my kid. I ignored my kid, but a giant monster's making me think I want to be a dad again, actually.
It's nothing like a giant 7 million ton lizard to make those parental instincts kick in, Yeah, I had some fun with these movies. I really liked the last half of these movies a lot. Because that was where we got some big monster rampages.
Yeah.
But I also had a bit of fun with these. They weren't too long, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
If these had both been like 2 hours, I would be mad here. I would be upset. I would be, why is my time be wasted on these? But seeing as they were only like an hour-ish, I had some fun. There was a lot of legs. Yeah, certainly both of these I was bored at the start. I was definitely I was getting to the monster. I was waiting for it. Although I think I'm torn about which one I like more.
Okay.
Because of the plot differences that I don't want to go into in the non-spoiler bit.
I feel like for me, there was one where I definitely fell asleep during, and then the other one I didn't. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's always a pretty good indication, yeah.
How about you, Robert? What was your thoughts on these two movies?
Well, I'm fairly agnostic when it comes to giant monster movies. Like, I can get down with some of them, but after a while, I think it's what you guys were sort of alluding to. Like, there's going to be human characters in it. If the human characters are boring, it usually doesn't help the overall experience. If there's anything for me to latch onto with that, then maybe I can kind of get hooked into the story. And I think both of these movies suffer from a lot of the same problems. I think they're in a way, there's a lot of things obviously similar about them, but there's also like a lot of sort of alternative approaches that these two movies take on things, and we'll get to that when we get to
That's true.
in more detail. But I think one of them, it took me a while to sort of get in the vibe with, and then the other one I was more consistently entertained, I guess. And there was one that I sort of had problems staying awake through, which we'll get into in more in detail. But I mean, they both seem to be within this genre of giant monster movies, fairly prominent for this era. So that's, as a cinephile, I'm never going to be like, what a waste of time. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now I've seen It Came From Beneath the Sea. I've seen Tarantula.
Yeah.
And I can see why people that are just generally into the genre would get some stuff out of this.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely heard of Tarantula before. It Came From Beneath the Sea. It could just be the gimmick in the title is why I think I've heard of it before. I'm not sure. But yeah, these both did pretty well. They both made over $1 million in the box office.
Oh, wow.
They're both directed by pretty impressive people as well. It Came From Beneath the Sea is directed by Robert Gordon. He was actually in The Jazz Singer, which is the first movie to ever use recorded singing and stuff in a movie. He was in that, which is pretty cool. He directed a bunch of other stuff as well, including a movie called Black Zoo, which is just a name. It's like a gore-filled horror movie. And Tarantula is directed by Jack Arnold, who also directed Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Ooh.
So he's quite a prominent creature director. And yeah, we've got the Octopus one coming out of Columbia. We've got Tarantula coming out of Universal, so two pretty big studios as well. And they're both ripping off pretty popular movies. I mean, It Came From Beneath the Sea, obviously a Godzilla ripoff from the get-go, you can tell.
Yeah.
Tarantula, weirdly enough, kind of feels like a ripoff of The Fly, even though the Fly came, I think that was 56 or 57, but kind of like that, like, mad scientist sort of vibe of horror movie as well.
I think I've heard of Tarantula before. I had not heard of It Came From Beneath the Sea. And I think the human plots, although I boo-boo them, are important for a story like this. We need the human perspective so that we can feel the impact of the monsters when they come in with their rampaging eight-legged destruction. So it's important. So it's very important to have a good human story, which is where both of these certainly struggle, I feel.
They tried.
One of them I liked more than the other.
Yeah.
Immensely. But that's because its B-plot also was kind of... It was Tarantula. It was also kind of science-y, But it was good. And I liked the effects that both movies used. We're going to rate them later, but I feel like the Octopus, I felt, was better animated, obviously, because they used practical effects.
Right.
To do some, like, puppetry and stop motion and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, for most of Tarantula, it is a close-up film of a tarantula walking around.
Crawling on miniatures, yeah.
I feel like Tarantula sells the monster through its music, whereas Octopus sells it on the visuals.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to later. But yeah, you're right. The visuals of Tarantula were very silly.
Yeah, but that kind of adds to Tarantula.
Yeah.
Tarantula gets away with the charm of it as well. And it also sort of works. So, we'll get into it later. But yeah, there's some stuff here. There's some substance.
There's definitely some substance. And yeah, like there's some human characters. I feel like, Tarantula's got a bit more meat to it because it is not ripping off Godzilla, which is just kind of like army boys. Hello. Whereas Tarantula's like, we're scientists. I don't know what that says about the cliches, but I feel like scientists are a bit more interesting sometimes.
Yeah. Scientists are more interesting and the army can go fuck itself, unbiased opinions here. We're giving our unbiased...
Only facts, we said at the start of the show. Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like It Came From Beneath the Sea is like weirdly procedural in a lot of it too. It's just like, watch us as we will look at the radar for 10 minutes. Watch us as we study the samples for another 10 minutes. I was just like, I don't know if this is what I want in my giant monster movie.
But that happens. That happens in the giant movies. It's like, oh, wow, we found this strange egg, but it's huge. Oh, I wonder what this will lead to. Wait a minute. It's not just an egg. There's a mother running around. Oh, my God. If this egg is this big, then how big is the mother?
Right.
Oh, my God. Yeah, like, the monster movies have that sort of, like, weird build-up. It's like, I've seen the poster.
We know what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I know what's happening here. The movie's called Tarantula. The movie's called It Came From Beneath the Sea. Like, we know what's going to happen. So sometimes it does feel a bit ridiculous. And it is kind of a cliche that even nowadays they sort of fall into.
You're right. There's like a formula, and I feel like everyone is sick of the formula as well, but they don't switch it up. They still haven't switched it up.
I think the problem is they don't know what to do with the humans. It's like,
Yeah.
We're here for the monster. What are we going to do with the humans to kind of excuse them being there? And the way the movie figures it out really, is the hit or miss for the film.
Yeah. I think that's maybe why Pacific Rim is so good, because you've got the humans being also monsters as well. You got them in the giant suits.
Yeah. It evens the playing field. It's very clever.
I will allow some opinions for a brief second as we rate these movies, oldies or goodies.
Oh my God.
Robert, what would you rate these films? Start with It Came From Beneath the Sea, I reckon.
So It Came From Beneath the Sea is the one I had a hard time getting through.
Yeah.
It was rough. The first half, especially, it took, I think, 27 minutes is what I clocked it as, where we first see a tentacle.
Yep.
27 minutes in an 80-minute movie. We're like almost halfway before the tentacle comes out and starts slapping the ship around or something, I think.
I've got that exact note. Giant octopus finally at 27 minutes.
God damn.
And the romance, as it were, like, I really didn't care. It was just Matthews sort of creeping in on Professor Joyce there.
It was really, every time he came in, he was like, hey lady, fall in love with me. Wait, you're not falling in love with me? I'm gonna go throw a tantrum.
Have I mentioned I'm the commander? It's all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, for It Came From Beneath the Sea, like, the monster stuff is cool. Obviously, Ray Harryhausen, who did the effects there, like, huge titan of visual effects on film, especially around this time. So I appreciate what he did, but it was not enough for me to not rate this one an oldie.
Ooh, yeah.
So that's where I land for It Came From Beneath the Sea. Like, it's good of its time, but doesn't hold up so well.
All right, so an oldie from It Came From Beneath the Sea. How about for you, Zach?
I'm in similar veins. As I said, the whole, like, story with him being like, you fall in love with me. If you don't, I will have a baby tantrum like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? What is this guy?
I didn't know the main character of this movie is on the podcast with us. Hey,
Yeah.
how's it going, Commander Matthews?
Hey, it is me. I am captain of submarine. It was a rough one. But I really liked the actual octopus when we got to it. You know, the effects of that, it attacking the bridge, the whole defense of that was actually really good.
That was good, yeah.
I thought that was possibly better than the, like, giant spider. But also that one was also pretty good, so that doesn't really excuse this movie from just having a bad B plot and good visual effects. As I said, I liked the practical effects a lot. I think that carries this movie a lot. And the ending helps hide away the awful human plot that was earlier. But yeah, probably an oldie from me as well. Like, what's the plot? They go up, they shoot a few things at it, and then it fucks off? Oh, wow. All right. Well, there we go. That was a battle, I guess.
There's also, like, not a lot of score or anything to elevate a lot of the sequences of the movie. It's just pretty flat a lot of the time, too, which doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, It was a relatively cheap movie. It was like $1,500,000, maybe something like that. $150,000, yeah, which is like, compared to last week, we did a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea last week, which cost about $9 million, which was the most expensive movie of all time as of 1954. Comparing that to a movie that costs like not even a tenth of that budget, it's like, oh, this is rough.
That comparison definitely didn't help it, which is why I watched Tarantula first, very specifically, to try and remove that comparison. It was still bad.
Yeah, that's a shame. I unfortunately watched It Came From Beneath the Sea first and almost fell asleep. I was apparently deliriously just falling asleep on the couch watching this one. I remember the movie, but apparently I was just falling asleep. Yeah, I've seen Godzilla before, so I don't get the appeal of It Came. I don't know. I like some of the visual effects. I think some of the acting is incredibly camp and pretty funny. But as an overall plot, it's just not interesting. Just a bunch of men being like, "Oh, look at the sonar. There's a giant creature there, but let's look at it for 10 minutes. Let's look at that for 10 minutes."
It's also, both of these movies don't have like innovative creature design. Godzilla is a creature that was designed for a movie. Both of these movies are just a big octopus and a big spider. It's like, we've seen octopi and spiders before. You got to give us something else to work with.
Exactly. And I love big creatures. One of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who from the 60s is, there's a giant cat chasing them. I love that sort of stuff. It's very funny. Yeah, a giant octopus wasn't particularly exciting. There was some fun stuff that we'll get into, I think, in the bonus battle, though, with like how they kind of showed its weaknesses and then how they used that against them. It was kind of cool. But yeah, I'm gonna give It Came From Beneath the Sea a big oldie as well. Tarantula, though, Robert, what do you reckon?
This one was a lot more fun. I'm gonna just front load it there. Yeah. I think the big difference is, first of all, maybe just the fact that it is a footage of an actual spider. I was just immediately more convinced by that. I think it's just the power of I guess they're both practical effects, but this was just like literal footage of a spider. And in a way, it looked super dated. They both kind of did, but it worked for me. Like, I don't know, even when the spider's outside the window towards the end of the movie, and it's clearly just like a screen, it's just like, this looks awful, but I love it. Yeah. Like, more of this. I thought John Agar as the Dr. Hastings, the lead character, I thought he had sort of like a fun swagger and kind of playfulness to him, whereas Commander Matthews in the other one is just so stoic and just like, why isn't she into me yet? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, like Matt Hastings, he reminded me of like a Kyle MacLachlan, whereas a Pete Matthews is like, I don't know, he's like Ben Mendelsohn or something in the lead. I'm like, you're a better side character.
like watching Tarantula, I was thinking to myself, like, if they ever remade this specific movie, not that they really need to, because there's a lot of giant monster movies out there, it would be like a Bill Hader kind of part. Like, he has to seem smart and seem kind of flirty and sort of but still kind of playful and keeping everything light, but maintaining the stakes of the giant spider that's running loose. And alluding to what you guys were saying earlier, like, there's a whole body horror element here that I think is really interesting. That did also remind me of The Fly, with Dr. Deemer, and that his like face consistently in a state of melting, basically. It's unclear if they're aging or just decaying, but all of that stuff, like, even without the giant spider, like, I thought the B plot was way more engaging, just with those characters and the assistants that sort of, lost it at varying points and had that all of that. So, long story short, definitely a goodie for me. Like, I thought this was pretty solid, pretty fun.
Ooh, awesome. A goodie for Tarantula. How about you, Zach?
Well, we came for the eight-legged freaks, but we stayed for the acromegalia.
Acromegalia, nice.
Yeah. Because, as you mentioned, the body horror and stuff, acromegalia, they mention it 1,000,000 times during the film.
They sure do.
And I was down for it. This film, very silly, very dumb, but very fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. The B plot with the scientist and the mad scientist, and the sort of the lead up to why there's a giant like tarantula roaming through the US eating cattle was pretty decent. was pretty decent. Like, we figure out, like, why this is happening.
Yeah.
And all that. And it's pretty great.
And the movie stops for a little nature documentary to explain why it's doing that as well, which is excellent. It covers all its bases.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, leaving bones and stuff like that. The spider would just eject them and then slurp its innards, and then they talk about that. I was like, oh, okay. Props to your movie. I'm so sorry. I'll back off. You explained it. I'm gonna give it a goodie. I like this movie a lot. I had great fun.
Hell yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm glad that I watched the Octopus one first, because my expectations were so low. I was expecting something awful. So just the start of Tarantula, I was like, this is really fun. It's so cheesy and pretty much exactly what I want from a 50s monster film without getting into how, like, boring a lot of them are. This one wasn't that boring, which is a surprise. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it a goodie as well, pretty much for every reason that you have all said. I also just liked the characters more as well, that they had more charisma and everything, which is, unfortunately, that is important with a movie like this, because if you've got boring characters, as we saw with the Octopus film, you're like, I don't care about anything.
Yeah. If your characters are going off to, find Merlin's staff to help Optimus Prime, like, I'm not gonna be down with that movie. That sounds like a garbage movie.
That was a very specific reference.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. Movies with human characters that I could not give a shit about.
I love Chad Yeager, or whatever his name is. Fucking Mark Wahlberg's name is in those
Oh
movies.
my god. Oh, it was the worst. I would gladly watch Beneath the Sea again than that movie.
Yeah, when are you going to do the Transformers movies, Robert, on franchise
I don't know if I want to subject myself to that.
That's pretty fast.
That's a good call.
Well, howdy there, it's me, Sally McSeller, and I've got a new ad from Sanjo and Zach. A few months ago, the boys did 2 episodes on the Cat People movies, and now on Patreon, they've got a brand new one on the 80s remake. Now, when I heard that they were doing the 3rd part of the Cat People series on Patreon, I said, that's a bit scummy, boys, and they were like, we know, but capitalism. So I was like, well, you better give the listeners a clip so that they have a reason to go subscribe to Patreon, and here it is. It does everything that I wanted from a remake of the first one, because I like the original as well. It does everything better in that first one is like, if I kiss someone, I might turn into a panther. In this one, it's like, if I have a sex scene, then it'll turn into a panther. And I was like, cool, you escalate it, you add like the cheesy 80s sort of shit to it. It's a little bit raunchy, but also not at all, because this movie's kind of anti-horny. If you get horny watching this movie, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, it is a bit like a video, an anti-horny video. It's like, if you get horny, you're gonna turn into a panther and eat somebody. Don't get horny.
Yeah. I've got to say, even though I disagree with the release strategy of putting the 3rd Cat People episode only on Patreon, that does sound like a lot of fun, and I'm gonna go over there now to patreon.com/oldie-but-a-goodie-pod to check out the entire episode. Plus, you can get ad-free and early episodes of the main show. Yeehaw! That sounds good.
All right, well, we gave one of them oldies across the board, and the other one goodies across the board, but that doesn't mean that we aren't doing a bonus battle, even though it's obvious what the outcome's going to be.
No. Because we now put aside our garbage opinions, and we only deal with facts. This is a scientific, like, we might be biased, but we need to put that aside. We need to put that aside and just do the science to decide which is the best film. And we decide those facts.
Crunch some numbers.
All right, so we're going to rate these out of 10, and we're going to start off with the category of plot. Now, we've already kind of talked a lot about the plot of both of these movies, so we don't need to spend too much time discussing this, but we do have to come up with a unanimous number to rate it. We'll start with It Came From Beneath the Sea. Plot-wise here, I mean, yeah, it's just a giant octopus got disturbed by the H-bomb and is angry, so has come up to where people are. It's killing them all. Why? I don't know, it's angry, I guess.
Because they're boring.
It wants to fight. They specifically state in the movie that it wants to fight. It doesn't want to run away or, anything. It specifically wants to fight.
Yeah, it's taking out all the boring humans, and there's no conflict if you're just 100% like, yeah, please, Octopus, just finish this off, get these people out of here. Like, keep the movie shorter. I'm all about it. The plot is very rough, and it came from Beneath the Sea. I think it's all process. Like I said earlier, they see the octopus. They see some disturbance on the sonar. There's some tissue jammed up in the submarine. They study this tissue. They realize it's an octopus. It's like a whole discovery process until the last 20 minutes of this thing.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, and most of it, we'll get to it later, but most of it is that weird romance, which, by the way, it's its own category. We'll get to the romances later.
Oh, okay. Romance is its own category?
That's its own category.
Nice. I know which is losing that category.
It's so procedural. It is, I'm not surprised at all that this was, primarily a drive-in movie, because it's a film you pay, you give it a third of your attention while you're, I don't know, doing literally anything else. You're reading in the car, you could be doing that while half watching the movie.
You could be falling asleep like Sandro.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
It feels like the kind of movie that's made for horny teenagers at the drive-in in 55 to go there, make out, fool around, whatever, and then by the time the interesting stuff happens, they're already done.
Yeah. You're done, and it's like, what's happening with the movie? Oh, look, a giant octopus. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost time to that.
I certainly, I hated the plot up until we got to the monster, and I actually liked the whole monster combat that we had. Like, they came up to it in the submarine, and it just the size comparison, I was like, damn, that's a big ass octopus.
Yeah.
Versus the tiny submarine, and then them going in, and I liked them going in and actually taking it on head on, with our main characters. I thought that was slightly better than Tarantula.
Yeah.
The idea of the ending was better. Not necessarily the execution.
Yeah, because Tarantula kind of ends with a Deus Ex Machina sort of.
Yes, exactly. If you put the plots on paper, I like the octopus defeat more, where they had this little electric field that they've put on, which is pissed it the fuck off, and it won't fuck off, so they have to go and blow it up. And then they go and blow it up, but oh no, things go wrong. And then,
Yeah.
I liked that. It doesn't excuse the rest of the movie. Again, I hated the toddler that was the captain. I hated that they still got together anyway. And it's just
Although I didn't mind the first maybe 5 minutes where I was like, oh no, have I been tricked into watching a submarine movie? Because it is kind of like a submarine movie for the first 5 minutes. That was kind of cool, where it's you see the politics on board and
that was funny.
That was quite fun. I liked as well how there's a point, I think in the middle portion, where they're shining a light onto a regular sized octopus. It's kind of hiding away from the light. And then a big part about how they defeat it is that they shine an even bigger light on the octopus, and then it does the same thing. And I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's Chekhov's light or whatever.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Their defeating of the octopus was pretty good. Their sort of study of it.
Right.
To be this might work on it, or this might work on it, that sort of thing. That made sense to me, and I was on board. The rest of it,
Yeah. So in terms of plot, out of 10 or out of 5, what do we reckon?
10 works for me.
10? All right, out of 10, I don't know, a 4 is what I'm feeling. How about you, Robert?
I was already thinking 4 before you said that. Yeah, I think 4 for plot, because most of the stuff we said describing the plot that we liked were not really plot things. Most were the part that kicks, they fight it. I'm like, well, that's not plot though. So
yeah,
I could easily go for a 4. Don't you worry. I'm only giving it bonus points for some octopus trivia.
That's true. You do enjoy a good cephalopod. That's one thing that you can say about Zach. He loves those.
It's true. Famously.
Love those giant suckers on the Golden Gate Bridge. That's what you like.
I'm a sucker for suckers. What can I say?
All right. Well, then moving over to Tarantula, it is definitely a bit better because you've not only got the plot with the giant creature, but you've also got a bit of a mystery going on about what these mad scientists are up to. And then the reasoning as to what they're doing is also really interesting, because you've got these scientists making giant creatures because they're like, by the year 2000, there's going to be too many humans. How are we going to feed them all? Giant cows.
Yeah,
That's how we're going to do it.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, this is pretty big brain. Just make things bigger, more food, more stuff.
I also like how the fact that it's a giant tarantula is almost circumstantial. Like, we almost could have had a giant rabbit or a giant rat, a giant hamster. Like, is this the beginning of a tarantula shared universe? Like, give me the giant hamster movie. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's almost like they started with, because with It Came From Beneath the Sea, they obviously were like, they started with the idea of giant octopus. Whereas with Tarantula, it's like, did they start with the sci-fi mad scientist plot? Is that where they started? Or did they start with the tarantula, but then actually thought through what the plot was going to be? It felt a lot more thought through. It felt like they actually had writers on that one.
That always helps.
They hired writers. Yeah, that's the ticket.
That's kind of what you need. Hey, Hollywood, you need writers, don't you?
Maybe pay them.
Maybe pay them.
Only facts, guys, here. Only facts, all right? None of these opinions. I'm starting to hear some opinions again. Bring it back to facts. The fact is, my opinion of this film is good, so I'm going to say the plot was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the weird disease sort of plot, and he's like, acromegalia or whatever the fuck it's called.
Acromegalia, which, by the way, is nothing like what it's shown in the movie.
Of course, I wouldn't think so.
Oh, absolutely. But, hey, the doctor's never seen it before, so he can't correct them. I love the intro where it's just we see the scientist in the desert all weirded out, and I was like, what? This is my tarantula movie. What the fuck is happening? I definitely loved the random like specimens in the cages where they were all getting bigger, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I could see giant hamster, giant mouse, giant rabbit, you know? And then you see the tarantula, I'm like, oh yeah, this one. And I particularly liked they had like an injection chart.
Yes.
And I believe the tarantula had the most injections because it had the most time there as well.
It was up to like its 6th injection, I think, based off the chart or something.
Yeah, so there was a little sort of hint is like, this one's had the most. Wonder what that could mean.
It
Mm.
did.
Unfortunately, rabbit with an exclamation point didn't have quite the cachet with the marketing. Otherwise, we might have changed that around.
I would love giant killer rabbit movie. That would be so fun.
Yeah, it's also interesting to what you guys were saying. It does seem like It Came From Beneath the Sea was just like, we want a giant octopus. Ray Harryhausen, can you do that? And he's like, sure. And then here, this is based on an episode of a television series called Science Fiction Theater. And that episode was called No Food for Thought, which leads me to believe that the plot was way more focused on the nutrient and the mad scientist stuff. And that they were like checking the box office. They're like, okay, people just want giant animal stuff. So let's have a giant animal spin out of this screenplay that we've written based on this television episode. And because of that, it feels like kind of two different sci-fi horror movies at the same time, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. I also liked that whole plot of, hey, we're going to run out of food in the future. Like, that's like a thing, a resource problem. How are we going to fix that? Oh, we've got this superfood that we're making. This way we can make giant creatures, give them superfood, and we can eat them, and then we'll have plenty of food for everyone. I was like, hey, that seems pretty good to me. That checks all the boxes. I see no way this could possibly go wrong. 0 ways. And then everything went wrong, and I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah, so that episode of Science Fiction Theater, so that is an episode that came out, actually, surprisingly enough, it came out just before It Came From Beneath the Sea came out in 1955. Directed by the same guy. The screenplay is by Robert M. Fresco, who is also a co-writer on the movie. And yeah, that's about a biologist and his staff test synthetic food that have proved fatal to animals. They test it on themselves. And, Zach, it stars our Prime Minister, John Howard. Our old Prime Minister, John Howard's in that one. Yeah.
What? It's John Howard again? Oh, I love it when our Prime Minister, John Howard, just gets in there.
He keeps showing up in movies we're doing. Good on you, John Howard. Anyway, I think you're right. I feel like they were like, we'll just take the giant tarantula part of that of that short story and make that the ending, which is probably why the ending, the final like 10 minutes of this movie does feel a little bit tacked on. It does kind of get to the part where you're like, and now we kill the big tarantula with napalm. It's like, okay.
USA! USA!
And then it's like, the end. We're like, oh, all right. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of wraps up all the plot, and then it's like, now we've got to fight the giant tarantula. Although I guess there is the part where like it attacks the house and everything, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah, the house attack. Oh, that was so great with its giant face, like, sitting in the window. I was like, yes, this is so stupid. I love it. It's great. And she just doesn't see this giant fucking spider face just sitting there watching. I was like, holy shit.
It's that classic thing of, like, it doesn't start shaking the ground until she's noticed that it's there. It's like, you would have heard that thing coming. It's massive.
Yeah.
Although tarantulas, I don't know, like spiders are pretty careful with how they walk, so who knows?
Yeah,
they could tread quite quietly. Yeah, never know. They also state how fast it is. And it's interesting, and I'm going to turn into a nerd now. It's interesting, spiders, if they were that large, they don't move their muscles by, like, constricting and contracting their muscles. That's not how they move their limbs. They actually move with a pump system, like heavy machinery.
Oh, cool.
How they pump oil up and down to make things move. That's how spiders move. They are essentially like robots, and they, pump fluids into their legs to, like, push them out and move them, and they do that repeatedly, which is why when a spider dies, it sort of curls up, because that's naturally where its legs want to go, and it just pumps fluid into, I think it uses blood, and it just pumps them full of blood to move them. So a spider doing that could actually do that to a large scale. The problem would be oxygen for it, but,
True.
This is an 80s movie, whatever, don't worry about it.
Wow. Just like the movie, we stopped for a science lesson halfway through.
Yeah,
Yeah. And of all the things, that one could be quite a big one. I could believe that.
Okay, that's really cool. Well, out of 10, I'm feeling pretty high. I'm like a 7.5 maybe. I feel like they put a lot of effort into the plot of Tarantula, and it shows.
I was going to give it an 8. I was going to just chuck a big old 8 on it.
I was at like a 7, but I can go for an 8. I think it was really good. We didn't even mention the scene where there's like giant pools of the venom that he like scoops up, like gives it a taste. He's like, this is no good.
Yeah. He does something. It's like, this is insect venom. Very strange. What the fuck are you talking about, Doc? There can't be insect venom. You're full of shit.
I feel like the only bad part of the plot, though, is when he's like, I'm going to catch a plane and go to this different state and talk to a random doctor for like 5 minutes. And then, oh no, how am I going to get back home? That part, I was like, I don't know about that. But the venom stuff, which leads into that.
Well, it sounds like we could meet in the middle, go 7.5.
7.5?
That sounds like that would be fair.
I think 7.5 is good. All right, let's get on to the next category, which is boring human characters.
Tarantula, 0 out of 10. Think of the Sea, 10 out of 10. Most boring. No, wait. So what are we rating these films?
Are we rating them on how like the success of the human characters or how boring they are?
I mean, the category is most boring human characters, but I feel like you need to get a 1 if you're incredibly boring.
Yeah.
I think we should be rating them on how interesting the boring human characters were.
Yes.
And how interesting the B-plot was, not how boring they were. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. With It Came From Beneath the Sea, you got Pete Matthews. He's like, I'm a commander. I like Leslie Joyce, but that John Carter from Mars, he's always there and he's annoying me. He's not John Carter from Mars. He's just got the same name as John Carter from Mars.
He does have John. Yeah. No, I noticed that too. And then other than that, it's a bunch of like just military dudes, and that's pretty much that's your cast.
Although we're famously, oldie but a goodie, we're pro-military, like famously pro-military. Didn't enjoy it as much in this film,
No.
Wasn't as patriotic as I really wanted,
Yeah, there's just not much going on. I feel like I would have liked it if he was a dad who's just trying to reconnect with his long-lost son. Like, I feel like that's a plot that I would have enjoyed in this one.
Yeah, they really need to explore that more in giant monster movies, I feel. It's a really niche that hasn't been looked into enough.
It's my favorite part of monster movies. I'm the guy from Kick-Ass. I'm from Godzilla. I gotta go find my kid. Where's my kid? I feel like I'd be the dad now that there's a giant monster stopping me from hanging out with my kid.
Really, what I'm looking for in a monster movie is a divorced couple.
Oh, that's
with
my
a
favorite.
child from the divorced couple. Yeah. But then a monster shows up and it's like, oh my god, I need to get back together with my significant other. But then my significant other's actually evil? What?
Oh, no.
Yeah. I hate it when that happens.
Oh, what about, I'm a kid and I've got to find my dad? Then now that one, that's a big twist. That's a big twist on the genre.
Oh, you're just going to find your dad? Oh, but usually it's the dad who has to find the son. Oh my god. What a subversion of expectations. Anyway, those were all theoretical. But yeah, clearly the plot of this one's bad enough that we're talking about other ones. It's pretty bad.
I was going to say, they're so boring that we're naming other tropes from other movies. We're like something to keep us awake during this podcast, because, geez.
It's got to be a one shot. Or maybe like 1 point. I enjoyed some of the performances. I feel like the guy playing Pete Matthews, he's so bad, it's hilarious. He's so uncharismatic. It's very funny at points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would rate it a 2. I liked the whole ending of it and the sort of scientist. I liked that the female was like a scientist in this, but she was also just like, I don't want to bang, but you're a man. I guess I have to. I'm like, oh no, I hate this.
And there was that whole like running theme of like, oh, she's a new breed of... I'm an incel. She's a new breed of female because she works.
She thinks. Oh my god. Terrifying.
I thought that was that both of these movies had sort of commentary on women. They think they could do stuff. What up with that? But this is the one category. This is maybe the one thing I'll give this movie, except for another one which we'll get to later. It did seem more progressive in that the John Carter of Mars was like, oh, this new breed of woman who think they're as good as men, and they are. I was like, wow, okay, 1955 movie, that's actually a surprise. Whereas the other one, they just sort of hand wave it. I think the character has a line, something like, oh, you women get the right to vote, and then suddenly they will look what you get, lady scientists, and then that's pretty much all you get there. But this movie ends on like, yeah, she's the most capable character in this movie. And I'm like, I'm aware. I've been watching the movie. I get it. She should have been the lead. Maybe that would have been able to salvage the human characters a little bit. But yeah, I thought that was weird.
Yeah, not quite there yet.
No. I reckon a 2 is pretty good. What do you think, Robert?
I think I was leaning towards 2 as well, yeah.
We'll go 2 for It Came From Beneath the Sea. There's no character depth in Tarantula, but I think the characters get something to do, which is the main guy, he gets to investigate stuff.
Well, the human characters die, which is great. There's
That's
a lot
true.
of acromegalia going around, and there's like these scientists, and there's a sort of mystery. The mystery plot actually really, helps, because it's like, what the fuck is happening with these scientists?
Yeah.
What's up with this scientist? What's up with acromegalia? Did I mention acromegalia yet? And then you just have, in the background, there's just a spider creeping around eating livestock, and it's great, I was like, I'm aboard with this.
It's pretty cool. And like, you've got the sheriff, you've got the guy who works for the paper, just a whole bunch of characters who kind of hang out for a bit.
The characters in this movie had personality, I think is the word we're looking for.
Yeah.
In a film like this, it's really all about how they react to stuff. In the other movie, they're like, we found this sample, let's analyze it. And this is what the results were. Here, there's chemistry between the two leads, which we'll get to in a minute. There's she's calling him on the phone being like, oh, I'm really worried about Dr. Deemer. Like, they actually have emotional reactions to the crazy stuff happening around them, as opposed to just flatly being like, let me present our findings. And I'm like, okay, I don't really care. So yeah.
I liked when the woman consented.
Yes, there's that.
That's
too.
a good one too.
Yeah.
This film has consent. It gets an extra point for a consensual kiss at the end.
That definitely helps.
Dear me. And also, I feel like Tarantula gets an extra bonus point as well, because we do have a uncredited cast member in this movie in the role of one of the Deus Ex Machina jet squadron members at the end of the movie who show up. Fucking Clint Eastwood's in this movie.
What?
Just shows up. I'm like, that's Clint Eastwood. What's he doing in this?
That's crazy.
Oh, there you go.
So he shows up at the end as well. He's not a character, but he's there. I feel like was he already popular at this point? Maybe this was just before he started getting into movies.
Yeah, this is like the beginning of his career, I think, around there.
I think this is in canon. Clint Eastwood saves the day from a giant tarantula.
There you go. The legend starts here.
Yeah, he started acting in 1955. This is one of his first credits. That's impressive.
Cool.
Yeah, I reckon like they give a lot of thought to these characters. There's some fun stuff. As you mentioned, they have emotional reactions to stuff that's actually going on. The screaming as well. Stephanie lets out some pretty good screams. We got a bit of a scream queen happening here, which is very important for a monster movie as well.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like a 7 maybe.
I think 7.
Yeah. 7's good. Yeah, I just keep that scene where the giant spider's just peering in just keeps playing in my head, and it's great. Especially when you mentioned the scream. Yeah, it's like classic trope of giant monster. It's roaming around causing destruction, but it has to stop and go specifically after the woman-female lead in the film, you know? It's like a Godzilla thing. I was like, oh, of course this is happening. It's
classic.
And I rolled my eyes, but I also had the biggest grin on my face. It was... It's very silly and very fun. I liked the scientist being dumb, but being dumb for a good reason. Like, he's not bothering to, like, cure himself. Like, they injected themselves with the thing for no apparent reason. They were just like, we want to do this quickly, so let's just skip to human trials. Pump, pump, pump. Oh, no, that's not good.
No, they're dying. Oh, I liked as well, though, how he gets injected because the guy that he was working with is like, this is kind of messed up. Can't believe you injected me. Kind of rude. I'm going to die, actually. But before I die, I'm going to make sure you also die. Here, have an injection. I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's great. And instead of trying to cure himself, he's just like, no, I just got to prove that our work works. I just got to prove. And then everything burns down, and he's like, no, all my work, the giant hamsters, everything.
The acromegalia strikes again.
The acromegalia.
Gollum has an unhealthy obsession about some bit of jewelry.
Doesn't even know this is what the precious is. Stupid therapist.
Cookie Monster's a bit of a stress eater.
Cookie.
And homicidal robots really just want their best friend back.
I know I did and said things that she regrets. But why is that my problem?
But what all these monsters really need is therapy. The podcast Therapy for Monsters finally puts monsters in the therapy chair with a real therapist. Me, Tim, your friendly neighborhood therapist. If you'd like to learn a bit and laugh a bit, check out Therapy for Monsters on your favorite podcast app.
That's Not Canon Productions podcast.
Zach, we've seen a lot of bad romances on the podcast. Over our 240-something episodes, we've seen a lot of really, really awful romances. But for our next category, which is romance, It Came From Beneath the Sea is one of the worst love triangles we've seen. In that it's like a one-sided love triangle. It's just Pete's got a crush and that's it. That's the whole...
Here's the other thing. Is it even a love triangle? Like, is she with John at
No.
all? Kind of, maybe. Not really. It's very unclear.
Yeah, I don't think she's even with John Carter of Mars.
No.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing there.
They're just friends. I think they're just friends, and the love triangle is all in the captain's head. Because he's an idiot.
He's like, oh, not that other guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're co-workers, you psycho.
Although, to be fair... The other guy in this non-existent love triangle is also pretty misogynistic as well, which just doesn't help the situation.
No. It's just like... It's like they had a checkbox, and one of the things was, oh no, we need women to watch this movie and be interested, so I guess we put a love story in it. I don't know. I guess we try.
I think that's just every monster movie has a love story in it for some reason, and so they're just like, oh, we have to put one in as well.
We're gonna do that.
How do women work? Does anyone know? We'll just make it up. Whatever.
It's so lazy. I will say, though, it does get a bonus point in my book, because at the very start of It Came From Beneath the Sea, in the submarine, we see the Commander Pete, and a guy called Griff. He's a lieutenant, and they're standing very close to each other. And the way that they look at each other, I saw something there. I saw a little bit of something there. I was like, you know what? That's a bonus point. I like it. I like this.
You can't retroactively add progression into a film. You did this the other week. No. That's not how any of this works.
This gets like a 0.5 for romance. They barely tried.
Woof.
All because it's Sandra's headcanon. Like, no, that is what happens. That is how I view this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's facts. You can't say it didn't happen.
That's right. And I mean, a bunch of men on a submarine, they're under the water for, statistically.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. But the film's not progressive. You can't add progressiveness into films retroactively. That's not how they work.
It came from beneath the sea, more like they came out beneath the sea. I don't know. Anyway, what are we feeling? Like a 1? I don't know.
Yeah.
0.5?
I'm down with the 0.5. Just dunk on this film. Because I really hated the guy in this film.
I did too.
Just the whole, thing, whenever they were interacting, if he didn't get his way, he just had a tantrum. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? He doesn't get to bang this girl, so he has a tantrum, and then he forces himself on her, and I'm like, oh my god, I do not like this guy at all.
And then the music would swell in some of those scenes, like we're supposed to be swooning over this, and I'm just, no, it's not happening, movie. Don't even bother. It's terrible.
Moving over to Tarantula, we've got Dr. Matt Hastings and we've got Stephanie Clayton, but she says, call me Steve. I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. So do they call her Steve throughout the rest of the movie? I don't know. Is it a romance? They got a meet cute where she wants to drive. She can't get a cab and he's like, I'm going that way and we'll get in my car. Then they just kind of keep talking. I don't know.
It's the opposite of the other movie in that it doesn't feel forced. Like the other one, it's literally forced on one of the characters. In here, it's just kind of like, hey, we kind of like each other. Let's hang out over here. It's very loose and undefined and just kind of a flirtatious relationship happening. Yeah.
It feels a lot more natural.
Yes.
Because at first, they really don't want to be together. They have this whole thing. It's like, aren't you going to exchange names? And they're like, no. And they just leave, which was very funny. I was not expecting that. That they just, because of that whole contrived love story thing, I'm like, oh, look, they're being forced together. Oh, they're going to get together. But they were like, no. Actually, we're not going to be forced together. We don't want to be together. We just so happen to be going together. And then they slowly grow in each other and they, talk with each other, and then they have to rely on each other, and then, there's a bit of sparks there, and I was like, you know what, this is alright.
It's not too bad. And, they're both charismatic enough that they can sell it. I am, in one mind, I'm like, why can't they just been friends? That, potentially could have made the movie better, but also, it's fine. Whatever. There's a giant monster.
Gotta stick together.
Look, when there's a giant tarantula roasting in the background, big bonfire, things are gonna get hot,
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Things are gonna get nice and steamy. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What are we thinking in terms of rating this one, Robert? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I feel like a 6. Solid, not amazing.
Yeah.
But, enough that it doesn't detract from the movie. It actually adds a little bit of color to the story and to all the giant spider craziness that's happening.
I'm happy with a 6. We'll put a 6 down there for romance. It doesn't reinvent the triangle because there isn't one, but it does.
That's what gives it the most bonus points. There wasn't a dumb love triangle.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into what we all came here for. Giant creatures is the next category. We got giant octopus versus giant tarantula, but there are other giant creatures in Tarantula. We're only talking about the tarantula, though. We're only talking about
No cheating, tarantula. No adding extra giant things in, you cheater.
I reckon, if it came from beneath the sea, is going to get big points from anything. It's going to be the giant octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is its one, redeeming feature. There is a big-ass octopus, there's some cool stop-motion tentacles, and there's a man murdered on the beach. And it's a good time.
It's fun.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, that was the thing I was sort of referencing earlier. Like, the creatures effects in It Came From Beneath the Sea are the almost sole highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
There's not enough of it, and everything else around it is flat and just does not work. But the effects are really cool. And like we were saying, the tarantula is just a tarantula walking across a miniature set, and it's kind of obvious. It's just superimposed behind them. And we look past it because everything else happening kind of makes it worth the trip, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a good way of doing a giant spider.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get more realistic than the giant tarantula. It's like,
definitely.
That is a tarantula, so there's nothing more realistic.
That's true.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and I reckon as well, like, with Tarantula, there was a part that I noted down where it's like walking across a hill or something. I quite like how they composited it onto shots. Like, it looked fairly realistic. The shadow work was pretty cool. But there is one scene where it's like walking across a hill, and they must have ran out of footage of this tarantula walking across this hill, because they just reverse the footage. It just like starts walking backwards for like a couple seconds before they cut to a different scene. Like,
yeah.
The tarantula is, I mean, I don't know. They do sell it. Like, it is impressive. I like the stuff where it goes in for the kill and you kind of see its point of view, and the music was really cool, but the giant octopus on the Golden Gate Bridge was very impressive.
Yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge, I think, definitely added a lot, because that whole cliche of, it's like, oh, giant monsters attacking. Oh, look, there's the bridge. She's going for it.
It's a recognizable landmark.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've been to that bridge. I've seen that bridge before. Oh, my God.
I've seen it in X-Men, one of them.
Yeah, X-Men, the Last Stand, yeah.
I've wanted to destroy this bridge as well. I can relate to this octopus now. You know, it's good. And I liked particularly the stop motion.
Oh, yeah.
I think that definitely gives it big points in my book, because I'm a big fan of stop motion and practical effects like that. The whole, like, grabbing the submarine, big thing. I loved when they shot the missile at it. We didn't go into detail about that, but the whole ending of this film is they you know, use like hand-propelled bazooka missiles underwater to go shoot it up and explode it. And the whole, like, there's a scene where the missile, like, embeds itself in the octopus, and it's like a little squish.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat.
That was really impressive, yeah.
And then they had to, like, rapidly swim away, because then the octopus explodes violently. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, it's very silly.
Yeah, it was good fun. And we see, like, some parts where, like, it attacks some ships and stuff. We see a backdrop of, like, the tentacles kind of, like, waving as the people on the boat are like, oh, no, there's a giant octopus. That all looked, you know, like, it's kind of obvious how they did it, but it looks fun.
I particularly loved when a random guy on the beach just got completely fucked. They were like, hey, this character doesn't believe he's making fun of the main character. He's like, sea creatures, what are you, silly woman? I hate women. I'm a terrible person. Boom, murdered by an octopus. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking an 8 for our 8-legged friend. I'm going to throw it out there. It's a very high score, but I need to throw this movie a bone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. I was going to say 8. One for each leg.
One for each leg. I think that's good.
And I don't think the other one's going to be too far off either, but I think you got to give this movie the edge where you can, and this is the place to do it for sure.
Yeah, with Tarantula, I think the thing with Tarantula is, like, the visuals of the giant tarantula don't sell it. The music sells it. The acting sells it.
There is that close-up of its face in that one scene that keeps playing in my mind.
They also use it like 3 times in the movie, the same shot of like, and every time he attacks,
Oh, and it's great every time, because you just see it in the background, and this lady's just not paying attention. I'm like, how the fuck are you missing that? It's right fucking there. But whatever they did for that sort of practical effect, where they made up a spider face with like fangs, but it's also got like jaw teeth in it to make it look even more menacing, which was kind of funny. It's like, that was pretty great. And I did like the whole miniaturized thing. I think that's a clever way of doing it, and it works. I know this isn't the monster, but we have the giant hamster and the giant mouse thing, and they're like, they've literally like just zoomed in on videos and then plastered them into cages. I was like, that's clever. I like that. I like that a lot. That's good fun.
That was still like really impressive though, because he's got like the giant hamster, he's got the clipboard with the information about like when it's been injected and stuff, and I was like, where does the set end? Are the bars also zoomed in? Are they a part of the video that's playing in the background?
Yeah.
But then he hangs something on the bars. I'm like, that's so clever. Like, you're hiding.
Yeah.
Like, it just looked really cool and like, well done. I was quite surprised by that scene, because I'm like, where does the picture itself actually end? I can't tell. The depth in Tarantula was really, really well done. But also it is just footage of a tarantula going for a stroll. So, I don't know.
Yeah, there is a bit of that whole thing where you, as a person now, could probably go make Tarantula.
Yeah.
Like, we could probably make Tarantula now with the modern technology helping us out.
Yeah, but nowadays it's going to be a giant CGI tarantula played by James Corden, and it's going to be like, oh, I'm singing and dancing, and then it's...
There's a giant 8-foot tarantula in the Wild West.
Well, we had that giant metal spider in Wild Wild West.
Wicked, 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 Wild, Wild
doing
West.
his thing, yeah, so I mean...
Wicked, Wild, Wild West.
In the pantheon of giant cinematic spiders, I would say this is, in the mix.
Oh, dear. I love the story of that one, is there was just a guy in the studio execs who really wanted a fucking giant spider in a film.
Yeah, well, the spider was originally meant to be in the Nicolas Cage Superman movie.
Yeah.
It was, like, meant to be Spider Brainiac, and they're like, I'll put it in Wild Wild West, I guess.
Yeah, he was just obsessed with a giant spider, and whenever he was a part of any filmmaking thing, he tried to push it,
Yeah.
and in that one, he managed to push it in, and that's why they have a giant spider, is because he just wanted one.
It's so good.
Which is fantastic.
It's so funny. That's a real passion project, Wild Wild West.
Absolutely,
I guess so.
absolutely.
Mild spoilers for The Flash, but there's there is the giant spider that does show up briefly in that movie.
Oh, wow.
Which you'll see.
I have not seen that film yet, like most of the world. I have not watched The Flash yet.
I was not told great things.
So where do we think Tarantula versus the giant octopus? What are we thinking?
I'm thinking giving it an 8, lol. They're both 8-legged 8 points.
I mean, one per leg again?
One per leg. I'm feeling like a 5 or a 6 personally, but if you want to go higher, we can
I was
go
thinking
higher.
like a 6. I was thinking like a 6 because it's decent. It does the job well, but like we said, it's everything around it that makes it work. The creature effects are way more impressive in the other one, I think, and we gotta like give it a little bit of a lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it 6 for each legs, ignoring 2.
6
That's
for
right.
each legs, ignoring the front 2.
Yeah, we don't care about them.
I don't know what to do for the final category. I have the idea of, like, we did this for our Dracula versus Frankenstein episode where, like, we rated them out of which one was the most deadly. But I feel like they're both reasonably deadly, so we can do a different final category if you want. I'm not sure.
I mean, we get multiple kill sequences in Tarantula, I think. So it almost feels like more of it has a little bit of a slasher vibe where...
Yeah, perhaps more scary.
Yeah.
Like the suspense or something of it.
Yeah.
Perhaps more terrifying. Yeah. Because deadly, the octopus does kill a guy. Like, we do see someone killed, whereas the tarantula, I think, mostly deals with cattle. I don't think, does it kill anyone?
Yes, there's a couple, I think, sequences of that.
I mean, a lot of the death in Tarantula is from doctors injecting themselves with
It's
stuff.
that too. Body count, I guess.
But if we go terrifying, I have arachnophobia, so auto winner, but also, giant octopus murdering people is pretty scary. If going from my Subnautica experience, though, the water is fucking terrifying by itself. You don't need anything in there for it to be terrifying. Water's just scary. It's liquid. But giant octopus being in there, rattling your submarine around, if I was in that submarine, I'd be like, holy fucking shit, I'm gonna die.
Yeah,
Fuck this shit,
I'm pretty
out.
scared right now. That's true.
It's also, to get away from the octopus, just stay away from the water. So, and you're like, it'll never get me here. The ocean is miles away. And but the spider, I don't know what, to get away from the spider, go on the water, in the water. Because I don't think it swims. So there's more.
Oh, there are swimming spiders though, so.
I don't think tarantulas swim though. I don't think the giant tarantula knows how to swim. But there's more water on the earth than land, technically.
True.
So
We also mostly live on land.
we do.
I mean, currently we're stuck in a submarine deep at the bottom
We are
of the
right
ocean.
now.
That's
well, and one of us is a monkey.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you're a monkey. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
But
okay.
traditionally, most people stay on land. Like a majority of them. So it being a land-based creature definitely does make it a bit more scarier.
I feel like, though, the giant octopus is harder to kill than the tarantula. Because with just the tarantula, it's like, we just get the army, they napalm it, there we go, done.
light it on fire.
Yeah.
Whereas the octopus requires a bit more effort. I don't know. How would you rate It Came From Beneath the Sea then, Zach, on this scale?
Certainly terrifying if you're in the water. There is that big category.
Yeah.
That caveat. If you're not in the water, it's a lot less scary. But octopuses can come on land. They are able to essentially hold their breaths for a while, which is where you see the guy getting murdered.
It destroyed the Golden Gate Bridge as well. Like, it did actually destroy some human stuff as well, which is,
Yeah. So there is that possibility of it, like, crawling into a city from the thing, smashing shit up and crawling back. A bit like Godzilla sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there is that sort of terror there. But overall, I don't think it's super terrifying. It's just a big octopus boy. Ooh, 5?
5?
6?
This is a tricky one because it's like I have a strategy in place for either of these situations should they ever occur. so we know what our game plans are.
I have napalm in the fridge right now,
Yeah, exactly. That being said, if you live inland enough, you'll be, you'll see a giant octopus warning on the news. You'll be like, oh, the giant octopus is striking again, everyone. Time to evacuate.
Yeah.
The spider is just gonna it move a lot quicker, first of all, on land, which doesn't help. So I'm feeling like the tarantula is gonna win out. So maybe like a 6 for the octopus, and then like a 7 or 8 for the tarantula.
Let's give it 8 for all 8 legs.
Yeah,
An 8
exactly.
for all 8 legs. There we go. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Because, good lord, arachnophobia is not fun. And the way they move, that whole, like, piston system that they have for their legs, terrifying when they move quickly. Absolutely terrifying. And they very specifically say in the movie that it is a fast creature, that it can approach quickly, even with its big size, which maybe not realistic, but definitely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, fucking fast giant land monster?
Yep.
Absolutely not. No, thank you. So I'm thinking 6 for octopus and 8 for tarantula.
Excellent. Well, we'll lock that in. I'll quickly do some math, and we'll see which one wins out. So out of a total of 50 points, coming in at 20.5... Which, it's like a 2-star review. It's not too bad. It Came From Beneath the Sea.
Yeah, not quite reaching that 50%.
Yeah, not quite reaching 50%. It Came From Beneath the Sea, coming in at second, or as I'd like to say, right at the bloody bottom. This movie sucks, actually. Don't watch it.
Bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, 20.5 for It Came From Beneath the Sea. But then, taking the winning spot, 34.5 out of 50 points, is Tarantula, which is pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Who could have predicted this outcome?
Exactly.
I feel like that pretty much breaks down, like, that's how I would rate these movies, too. Like,
Yeah.
the first one, 2 out of 5, and the other one, like, 3.5 out of 5. Like, solid. Good movie. Enjoyable, yeah.
I mean, I fell asleep during the octopus one. I'm going to give it a 1. But,
Yeah, but this is objective science. You know,
Exactly.
we've got to look past our individuals and just do the scientific fact. And we came to it, and I think we can all agree it's scientifically perfect. And there's no other way we could have done that.
All right, I'm going to give you both a bit of a quiz right now. I've got two quotes.
Ooh.
Two quotes. One quote from each movie. I want you to guess which quote is from which. Jumping Jupiter. Someone's reaction to seeing a giant creature. Robert, which movie do you think it's from?
Oh boy. I hope it came from Beneath the Sea, but for this era, it could be either one of these. I'm gonna say Beneath the Sea.
Okay.
Ooh. Well, I think this is from the giant spider. I think that when I saw that giant spider, I was like, jumping Jupiter. That's a big ass tarantula. So I'm gonna go with the tarantula on this one.
All right, and I'm not going to reveal which one because, of course, if I do reveal it, you'll know what
other
the
one?
next quote is from.
Right.
The other quote is, "I like the winter and the snow, but snow is cold."
Oh God.
Zach, which film is it from?
Okay, well, breaking this down, what? But also, in the tarantula one, we light the tarantula on fire, which would give warmth. So maybe they're maybe a nice warm tarantula. It's also more land-based, which would deal with that. I think maybe they talk about the winter and stuff. I don't know. I'm going with the spider again and want to retroactively change my previous answer, but I won't. I'm just going to pick spider on both, and I'll be right on one of them.
I was going to say Beneath the Sea on both because I don't think any of us would argue that the dialogue in either of these movies is the strongest point. But
That's true.
There's that scene in It Came From Beneath the Sea where they're talking about, all of these things could be potential leads for the spider, and it's like all over the world, different things happening, and I feel like maybe that line ties in there somewhere. I'm gonna say Beneath the Sea for both of them.
Oh, they do mention heat is a
Yeah.
thing they try and use on the octopus. And the lady does like winter in that one. Oh shit, it is something like
Well, you already locked your answer in, though. Robert is correct. The snow line came from Beneath the Sea. I don't even think they're talking about anything scientific. It's just Matt and not Matt. What's his name? I always forget that guy's name.
Pete Matthews.
Pete Matthews.
Yeah.
He's talking to Leslie, and she's like, "I like the winter and snow," and he's like, "But snow is cold," or something. They're at some dinner event.
I can warm you up, Leslie. It's like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And jumping Jupiter does come from tarantula. It's when the sheriff sees the tarantula for the first time.
jumping Jupiter.
Just some random quotes I wrote down. There we go. That's the whole episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert, for this bonus battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I have to still be a monkey, or can I transfer back before I leave?
Yeah. When you're sent to the human day, you'll be turned back into a human. You might see
Perfect.
some side effects, extra hair growing, maybe a tail. But that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal.
That's fine. I'll make do.
If people wanted to check out your podcasts, where can they do that? Where can they check you out on social media as well?
Yeah, so our Crooked Table Productions shows, Franchise Detours, and Close Watch are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, and other podcatchers, as well as crookedtable.com. You can find me on Twitter, or X, I guess, as we're calling it now, and other social media at Crooked Table.
Yeah, and the links to the episode descriptions there. I've been on Franchise Detours a bunch. We did Muppets in Space together. I feel like we did another one. Oh, yeah, Curse of Chucky, was it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then also Beverly Kills Cop 3, because Zach and I have already done 1 and 2 here on the podcast, and we will never get a chance to review 3, so we jumped on yours to check that out. That's such a fun episode. Make sure to check that one out if you haven't heard it yet.
Absolutely.
All the links in the episode description. We're on all the stuff and things as well. Thanks to everyone who has reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. That really helps get the show out in front of brand new ears, or eyes, I guess. If you're watching us on YouTube, everyone over there, I'm still surprised that those episodes on YouTube are doing well. I think it is people just wanting to watch the movie still, and that's where we're getting the views from. But still, thanks to everyone who's watching us on YouTube.
Come for the movie, stay for the podcast.
Exactly. We are also on patreon.com/oldiebuddygoodypod. If you've got some spare dollary dues lying around, you can get ad-free episodes, early episodes, and bonus episodes. Up right now, it's a review of Cat People from the 80s.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That was a movie.
We're doing Friday the 13th, part 5 next as well, because spoilers, part 4, even though it was called The Final Chapter, was not the final chapter. So we're continuing with that series.
Meow.
Can't wait for that. That is all up there. Zach, you've got to pick next week's episode, though, from 1956.
And don't even bother looking at movies, Sanjay. I've already picked one.
You've already picked one? What do you mean you've already picked one? Which one have you already picked?
It's the 10 Commandments.
Oh, no.
Enjoying life of ease in the court of an Egyptian pharaoh, Moses discovers his Hebrew heritage and later God's expectation of him. That's right, we're doing a Christian episode.
I don't want to do that. That movie's like 4. I've already seen it as well. It's like 4 hours long.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, well, okay. I take it back. I don't want to watch. Look, I want to watch the 10 Commandments, but I don't want to watch 4 hours of it. Whew.
Yeah. That's a big movie. It's actually pretty good though.
Yeah.
It's a well-made movie. No matter what you think about the Bible, it's a well-made 10 Commandments movie.
Hell yeah. Moby Dick, that's another option. We have Captain Ahab having his vendetta against a giant whale.
Oh, Zach, speaking of long movies, War and Peace.
Ooh,
War and Peace.
War and Peace, yeah. Again, I think that falls in the category of love it, but don't have the time.
Around the World in 80 Days, more Jules Verne.
Yeah, Around the World is 80 Days. That's a classic.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Oh, that's very tempting. But actually, speaking on that sci-fi line, Sandra.
Yes.
There's a sci-fi classic I kind of want to take a gander at.
Sci-fi classic? You're talking about The King and I, my favorite sci-fi adventure comedy.
No,
Oh, okay.
Not quite. You're close. Really close. No, I want to do Forbidden Planet.
Oh, I've heard of that movie.
It's a classic sci-fi. Spacecraft travels to a distant planet to discover the fate of some scientists who were sent there decades earlier.
That sounds like a lot of fun. We did Flash Gordon. Aside from that, we haven't done any hard sci-fis this year.
Yeah, and we're big sci-fi boys. We need to add more sci-fi into this. I mean, monster movies are kind of sci-fi,
That's
but
true.
we need a little more sci-fi.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week, Forbidden Planet. And that's the whole bloody episode. Robert, would you like to not be a monkey? Do you want us to send you back to your regular life?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Would you like a banana on your way out?
I mean, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that.
They're all made of seaweed, though, because we're in a submarine. You know, it's fake bananas, but, you know.
I'll pretend it's a banana.
All right. Pew! Sending him back.
All right. Robert's
All right,
back.
and I better get out of this body. Good luck escaping the submarine. I sure hope this is the end of this weird subplot with the submarine.
I hope this is the end of the weird plot and I don't find something that's going to keep me down here for another episode. Anyway, see you, Zach. Talk to you next week. Oh, the body horror never stops getting gross. All right, Mr. Frenchman.
Sacre bleu. All right, monsieur, I shall take the controls. Oh, I dropped the plate. So sorry,
plate
good sir.
drop.
That's my bad.
That's so annoying. The monkey's running around too. Hear those monkey sound effects in the background.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to take the scenic route back
that's
home,
fine.
as, you know, I love the study of zoology. And oh my god, what is that out of the porthole?
What is that? It looks like a city underwater.
Oh my goodness, we must have found it. Finally, after all these years of searching, it is the lost city of Atlantis. Sacre bleu.